If you like this channel and what I do here, please help to support my work by checking out one of my books, available from Lulu Publishing and Amazon.com. Thank you. Hiya folks, welcome to Electric Media Madness. Happy New Year to you folks out there. I think this is our first thing that we've done in 2021. I was going to say 2020 then. I want to see the back of that year, thank God. So yeah, this is our very first podcast that we're going to be just talking about generic things, really. Just me and Dan rambling. We may have other people on with us at some point in the future. There's a couple of people who've spoken to me, have expressed an interest in being involved with this, but for now it's just me and Dan.
Yeah.
We'll see how we go with things. It's usually our banter's, we're kind of used to each other now, aren't we, in the way we rabbit on about different things. We just thought that there was a few things that we wanted to talk about. There were some things that we'd actually discussed doing videos on, but that didn't quite pan out. So we're going to touch on them here instead. Specifically, Doctor Who is one thing, and there's been some news, bits and pieces about Doctor Who as well, which we're going to get into. We're also going to talk about really some of the things that got us into science fiction in the first place. Seeing as this is the first podcast, we may as well talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about some of the things that we watched last year that were woefully long overdue. We perhaps should have watched them quite a while before that. And also going to mention the Expanse with that as well, because that's a good segue into that at that point. And we're also going to talk about some of the things that we had as Christmas presents as well. Things that we, specifically for me, I had a couple of box sets of things that I have not watched those shows for a very, very long time. And I was bowled over by how good they were. It'd been a long time since I'd watched them. And I just wanted to briefly talk about them here as well. We're not quite sure how this year is going to pan out for us in terms of making videos. Specifically, one of the reasons for me at the moment, I'm going to do a bit of a shameless plug here, because this is Science Fiction and the Hidden Global Agenda. This is my proofread copy, so you won't see that on there, but you can get it from Amazon, Lulu Publishing. I know that's a shameless plug, but I'm actually writing, that's the omnibus of volumes 1 and 2. I'm actually writing volume 3 at the moment, for those people who are interested in what they call conspiracy stuff. I prefer to call it alternative knowledge. But yeah, I'm tied up quite heavily in that. But it's a bit of a boon, that research and those books, for people who are interested in those subjects, but also have an interest in science fiction, films and television, literature and that kind of thing, because it's been really quite interesting for me to revisit some things that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while. I've been wanting to write about and research for quite a while. And it ties into quite a bit of the stuff that me and Dan have actually been talking about on this channel as well, specifically what's been going on with the whole SJWification of the media, Doctor Who, Star Wars to some degree, although it looks like they might be slightly starting to write that to some degree now.
One can hope.
We can hope, yeah. And also, I mean, Star Trek is, Doctor Who and Star Trek really take the biscuit at the moment for what they've had done to them.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting for me to cover some of that stuff and where the media is now. I'm going to touch back on that actually in a little bit as well when we talk about Doctor Who, because I've recently been in touch with some of my media contacts I must state here that most of my media contacts actually are people that have contacted me with regards to my alternative knowledge research. So they don't really get a great deal of insight on programs, rumors, things like that. It seems to be more sort of the legal side of things and the darker corners of the media and the strange R&D type projects that go on with the American media and things like that, to some degree with the British as well. But I did contact my BBC contact in the last day or so, actually. I had been contacting this person because of some of the research I was doing for the book, but I said, can you confirm anything or get any tidbits for me about this whole Jodie thing with Doctor Who? So I've got some interesting stuff to reveal there as well. So yeah, but we'll come to that in a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some of the things really that got us into science fiction. Do you want to go with this one? So,
well, the big one that I think I've spoke about before at some point was Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
That was weirdly episode 3 was the first one I watched.
Great film, fantastic film.
Like,
I get what anybody says.
Yeah, little 8-year-old me was having the time of his life. He didn't care about the stories. I'm just cool lightsaber fights, and that was it for me. That got that got me in, and then I just went down the fucking. Actually, thinking about it, most of the stuff, sci-fi stuff I end up watching was because of you.
Right, okay.
Like
I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse, but
you just give me like box sets of stuff, and I just
yeah,
like, yeah.
Watch this.
You got
Tell
me
me what you
through
think of
like
this.
Battlestar Galactica, Babylon 5.
Yeah.
I mean Deep Space Nine at the minute. And,
Yeah.
You know,
Because we're
Star
nearly
Trek
there now.
Picard,
We're not. Those people are waiting for our reviews on Deep Space Nine. We are getting there now. Dan is almost on the last season now, so we're nearly there. So
you know, you got me into Doctor Who season 11. You got me into Star Trek Discovery.
that's
Star
definitely
Trek
not something. Well, that kind of came off the back of our sort of you starting to get interested in. I think specifically to begin with, because when we first set this channel up, we wanted to show a lot, and there's a lot of YouTubers that do it as well. I think we would probably loosely call ourselves Fandom Menace affiliated people, certainly in as much as there are agendas in the media. It ties into a lot of my alternative knowledge research as well, and they have totally wrecked and pissed on and shat on and then set fire to and stomped on, and these cultural lexicons, you know, of pop culture, you know, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, that kind of thing. What they've done is, by virtue of using their political agendas, their platforms, they've just totally, not only have they trounced them and dismantled them and then destroyed them, but they're also now going back and rewriting history, you know, with a lot of characters and things like that. And that was something that you and I very much were keen to talk about. We thought that it was really, really important to, as from the point of view of being fans, of saying, look, this is what they've done to something which has worked perfectly. You know, that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Doctor Who is a good example of that. 50 plus years before they started really, you know, laying the agenda on thick. Star Trek, again, is another one that's been 50 plus years now. Star Wars, not quite, but, you know, it's getting there. It's just such a tragedy what's happened. It really is. It's such a shame. And there's ways of doing things. And Star Trek is a very good example of that. You can have your politics. You can have your messages. You can tell morality tales. You can get people to think outside the box and think much more broadly without bashing them over the head and alienating your entire fan base, which is what they've done. Star Wars is a bit of a funny one at the moment. It's kind of on the fence, isn't it, what's happened?
Yeah, it could go one way or the other at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, it had very much gone that way, but recently, since The Mandalorian, it's kind of swung back a little bit. But I would argue that certainly Doctor Who and Star Trek are in that position at the moment, where their fan base has just all but abandoned them, really, and just left behind these disingenuous virtue signaling type people that call themselves fans, but I don't really know what they are. But you know, or the completionists, the people who just cannot stop watching this, no matter how shit it becomes, they will just keep on watching it till the day it's gone. You know, no matter how bad it gets. So that's certainly something that we wanted to talk about. But yeah, going back to what you were saying, Star Wars, a big thing in both our lives, and Star Trek, you're starting to get in that direction. I think now,
it's very weird how I ended up getting into all this Star Trek, because I'd watched all of the movies when I was younger. I'd watched like the odd episode.
I think again I'd mentioned to you about, was it maybe either The Wrath of Khan or First Contact was one of the first ones that I said to you, Ian, you need to watch this. I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was one of them.
I think I watched one of them first because many years ago, like 2010 or something, I had like a free movie on Google Play Store.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a wide selection, but I picked Star Trek Insurrection. just
was it
randomly.
Insurrection, was it?
And I think Insurrection might have been the first one.
It's not a bad film. I know it does get slammed, but I like Insurrection. It's a good film. Yeah, different. It's more like a TV episode than a film, but
yeah. But yeah. The reason like I started, but that was all I saw before. But the thing that really inspired me to go back and watch it was Star Trek Picard. I was watching it, and I was like, "Fuck me, this is so shit." Like, I need something better than this.
Yeah.
So I just went on the search for a palate cleanser. Yeah. And yeah.
And I'd said to you many times, you know, don't let this be representative of your introduction to the larger Star Trek universe. You know, there's so many shows out there, so many episodes. Go back and make your own mind up and watch it, and also it gives you a good understanding for what has gone wrong with it now, because you know, Star Trek's had some clunkers over the years, but nothing on the scale of what is being shat out of Hollywood now.
Yeah, there's also stuff like Back to the Future. I watched that when I was very young as well. Alien a bit later, but yeah, just the classics really.
These fantastic films that are, I mean, they might have their flaws, you know, all films have got their flaws. It's very difficult to take something and say that it's perfection. There's some things that are close to perfection, but but I think it's just that thing of everybody, as much as because of where I come from with the way my life has certainly changed in the last 10 years and how I view the media now. I quite often say to people, I don't watch television anymore, which people go, what? No, you're lying. That's a joke. You're being disingenuous, you know, because you do. I think it's more accurate to say that I don't watch broadcast television anymore. And I don't watch streaming television hardly, usually only when you and I are reviewing something or something to that effect. I really don't like watching television at all. But there are times where I want to go back and watch things that I watched when I was younger. Maybe I'm a victim of hypnosis, you know, and all that kind of thing. Things from the simpler days in life, you know, simpler bygone days, you know. Some wonderful things about them. It isn't just about purely being able to sit back, put your feet up and lose yourself in these worlds. But also there's some wonderful, thoughtful storytelling. Lots of good messages as well, particularly in science fiction. Things that make you think, things that make you look outside the box. So you're broadening your perspectives, you're broadening your horizon on the world, you know, which people struggle to do that nowadays. I think it's very, very important to think more broadly, and science fiction does do that when it's good. It does do that.
When it's Starship Discovery, it puts you to sleep.
Well, yeah. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of the sci-fi that you know got us? There probably is actually, but I don't know.
I don't know. There's a lot.
Because we've gone off on a tangent a bit with Discovery, haven't we?
Did, but fuck, it always goes back to that. Why do we always?
Yeah, it's always that Doctor Who. You hold them up as the gold standard of how horribly wrong things can go, don't you?
But even when you're talking about good stuff, you're talking about the shit.
I know.
God.
When it's good stuff, you kind of find yourself saying, "Look, this is how it's done." Unlike Star Trek Discovery, Doctor Who. Yeah.
I think for me though, that's probably mostly it. Those
right.
Like they're the big ones that I watched quite a lot when I was younger.
Right.
Like, a lot of them. The others I probably watched like closer to now. So I suppose they weren't really the ones that got me into it. But the ones that really did get me into it, that was like Star Wars, Back to the Future, probably Battlestar Galactica as well.
Yeah, like Battlestar Galactica is a fantastic show. It really is. It's way overdue a rewatching for me. I think.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
and something that we should review at some point, definitely. Because I cannot say enough good things about that show. In terms of, you know, rebooting a show, taking it off in a different direction. You know, bringing in strong female characters, replacing male ones. You know, I mean, that is a fantastic example of how you do it right.
Yeah.
Unlike certain other things. Yeah. I mean, Cara Thrace as a character. I mean, I still have a lot of love for the 70s Battlestar Galactica. You know, Dirk Benedict, Richard Hatch, and all that, and in their own right, those stories and the characters, it works. Cheesy, yeah, I know, but it works for me. But I can separate it properly, watch Ronald D. Moore's version, and I could recognise absolute gold in a television programme. Rarely did that programme go off foot. You know, a couple of dud episodes here and there in season 2 and 3. But by and large, absolute gold all the way through. That's how you do it properly. That's how you write strong female characters. That's how you write strong characters. Full stop. Whatever colour, sex they are, gender, you know, whatever. Yeah. You know, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Brilliantly. Yeah. I mean, in terms for me, because I'm an old croc, I'm a dinosaur walking the earth, you know. Mine goes back many, 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 many years ago. I remember having a conversation because my dad passed away a couple of years ago now, and I remember, as you sort of getting your head in order as you do with these things in life, I remember having a conversation with my mum one day and saying, can you remember whether Dad, because I always attributed my love of science fiction to my dad, and I said, can you remember whether I was into it or he was into it, and then because of him I got into it? And she said, actually, he wasn't, which shocked me. I really was surprised about that. Yeah. He was fascinated in ufology. I always remember him telling me stories about these books he'd read about UFOs and stuff like that. He'd had his own UFO sighting back in the 1950s as well and things like that. So I mean, that's going off on a complete tangent, but it piqued my interest in strangeness and things like that, you know, unexplainable type things and that. But he really embraced science fiction. He did it as bless him, you know, the mark of a good father, as we use more of them these days, you know. Yeah. But he really embraced it because he could see that I loved it. And he started buying up from like secondhand bookshops and things like that. Arthur C. Clarke, all like the Greensback stuff and Amazing Stories, the comic books and things like that, and Isaac Asimov and Ray Bradbury, and I really wish I knew where they all went to. I don't know where they all went to. I started buying some Philip K. Dick and things like that. You know, we had shitloads of them, bookcases full of all these paperbacks of City and the Stars and 2001: A Space, you know, well, The Sentinel, all that kind of, you know, and Foundation, and you know, you name it. It was for years he got all these books and that, and I loved that. I read them, you know, like I could not get enough of them. I could not get enough of reading them, and that was the thing that did it for me. And then I had quite an early memory. I probably was Star Wars, probably because you're never born with these things that you just. I think I'd always had a sense of questioning things outside the box, just looking at the stars and things like that. I've always don't know where that came from at all, but I could, as long as I can remember. But and then he got me, like, we watched like the original Battlestar Galactica. He got me watching things like The Prisoner and The Invaders and Irwin Allen stuff like Land of the Giants and Lost in Space and all that kind of thing, you know. Doctor Who, Blake Seven when I was a couple of years older. Things like that. So yeah, it just went from there really. So I could never ever get enough of it, and I've always loved science fiction ever since, you know. And I have a bit of a different perspective on it now because of my alternative research, because there's always been agendas in science fiction, hence the reason why the book was called Science Fiction: The Hidden Global Agenda from the outset. But when I say agendas, sometimes it can be a very positive one. Sometimes the subversion is there for good reasons, because they're trying to tell you about things that are going on in the world, warn people about things that are going on that we should be wary of and aware of. So, and I love that about science fiction as well, especially when you get into sort of the dystopian science fiction and stuff like that, because it really does, it makes you think. And I think we can all benefit from thinking a bit more these days. Yeah. So that's really my story. So most of it is my dad, but over the years, I've met a lot of people who've shared my love of science fiction, and like with you as well, you know, the way you embraced it and all that has kept me interested, pulled me back to it at times where I'd lost interest and I'd gone off in other directions in my life and that. And you've kind of pulled me back a little bit and said, "Oh, let's watch this." And you know, so it's like for like what I did for you, you've done back to me in some respects. So yes, that's good. Certainly, I've watched more in this last year because of you know, you saying to me about let's do this, let's do rewatchables, let's all this kind of stuff, that which really your thing that you kind of ran with, didn't you, more than anything. I wanted to do it, but you sort of like said, well let's try this, let's try that, and I thought, yeah, okay, all right, we'll give it a go.
Yeah, because I don't always watch that much TV shows really. I go through phases. I'll watch like a shitload and then none for ages.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because broadcast media and to a large extent the streaming as well is just shite. It's shite. So seeing as we're talking about things from the last year, we're not going to go through everything we've watched, but this was something that you wanted to talk about, is things that we maybe should have
Yeah.
Got to much sooner.
Yeah.
There's one big example for me. There aren't all that many for me, but that's one big one that I should have watched. Naughty person. I should have watched it long before. But I don't know if you want to kick us off with that one again.
So,
It was your idea.
There's a couple of big ones for me. I mean, Pulp Fiction was one. I'd never seen
All
Pulp
right.
Fiction, and my friend Finn, like earlier on in the year when we were allowed to visit people's houses and stuff, he was like, "Let's watch Pulp Fiction," and I'm glad I did because it's really good. Yeah, he also did the same thing, but he hadn't watched this, and that was The Godfather, because we'd never
Really?
watched that before, and
Right.
that also was really good, and I should have watched
Well, that was
that
interesting.
before. Yeah, because it's a weird movie, because you think it's going to end like halfway through, and then it's actually like, no, it's only halfway through.
Yeah, that I think is probably one of the. It's up there with those examples of how you had Empire that surpassed Star Wars. Because I don't know. Have you watched The Godfather 2?
No, just the first one.
Oh, well, you need to watch The Godfather 2 because it's so much. It's so much better than the first one.
Is it? Okay.
It's one of those rare examples where a sequel completely surpasses the first one. Yeah, but don't bother with The Godfather 3 because that's an example of how a trilogy ends very, very badly. So
I have heard that one isn't the greatest.
yeah. And of course also I got you on watching Raiders of the Lost Ark as well. That was another one which we reviewed here on this channel.
That I had actually watched it before, but I was
you
very
don't
young,
remember,
so I'd forgotten most of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when you watched it, it was like you'd watched it for the first time, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I must have watched it when I was really young. I don't know how old, but not that old, I guess.
Right.
And the other big thing, I guess, if I'm not forgetting anything, was Deep Space Nine, because
yes,
I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, I hammered away at you for a long time with that one. Kept saying, "Look, this is worth watching. This is worth watching. It's fantastic. It's a great show." It can be a problem for people. I've said this before many times. You really have to cherry pick your way through those first couple of seasons of Deep Space Nine because there's a lot of crap there. Move Along Home, I've mentioned that episode a couple of times. Terrible episode. There are some real.
If I went back and watched it now, the earlier stuff, I'd maybe enjoy it more.
Possibly. Maybe from season 3 onwards, I think you would. I think you'd still struggle with 1 and 2.
Oh, okay.
Season 1 and 2. Yeah. There are some great, fantastic episodes in season 1 and 2, but there's a lot of fluff there. So yeah, for me, the main one really, because I haven't really watched a lot of films to speak of. Most of what I have watched is stuff that I've already watched many times and just thought, I'll give that a rewatch again. Yeah. Sometimes for research for my books. I've recently watched years and years of Russell T Davies series from 2019. I was gobsmacked by how pretentious that show is of everything that happened in 2020. It's incredible. Lockdowns and gated tiered off zones and things like that and everything. I thought, oh god, this is before any of this happened. So, and I am going to be putting a video together on that and several other TV shows and films that predicted a lot of what came to pass. So I'll tease that one there. But the main one for me this in 2020 was The Expanse. I was aware of the books, and I was vaguely aware of the fact that a good couple of years back that the Sci-Fi Channel were going to make it into a TV series. I'd never read the books. I knew somebody who'd read the books and loved them. I was always going on about them, but I just hadn't had the time to read them. And then at the real quiet point of last year, when things were like, I mean, I haven't been furloughed or anything because of the nature of the job I do. So, I've never really got a great deal of time on my hands anyway. But I did have I just had a slobby week, I think. And I'll give them credit. I mean, they probably don't even watch this channel to know that I'll say it, but I'll shout them out here. Gary from Nerdrotic and Doomcock from Overlord DVD. They just kept banging on about The Expanse, about how it's like the Orville. It's real quality science fiction of today. that should be like Star Trek, whereas Star Trek isn't. So I thought, right, okay, I'll give it a watch. I really struggled with the first season because you've just watched it. You've watched the first season, haven't you?
No, I haven't watched all of it. I've watched.
Oh, I thought you'd finished it. Sorry.
6 or 7 episodes.
Right.
But
and you liked it, didn't you?
I did like it, but I did get a PlayStation 5 and quite a few games,
oh,
so I've been,
so
I've been doing other things.
Then, yeah. So yeah, I really struggled with it, but I persevered because I could see some really good things in it, like how it talks about, weirdly, it's got a lot about identity politics in it, but it's done the right way. And it's got things about how, like, on Earth, basically the United Nations have taken over and everybody's like, it's on universal credit and all this kind of thing and that. And it's quite pretentious again of the things that are going on in the world now. And it's politics and morality tales done right. You've got a lot of diversity and inclusion, a real diverse cast. You've got gender and sexuality represented quite a bit, all these kinds of things. But it's never bashing you over the head with it. It's just there. The characters are. And talking of characters, and especially the female characters in Drummer, Bobby, Naomi. These are really strong female characters. Really good to watch. But like I say, I struggled with the first season. When I hit the middle of season 2, there's a big episode in the middle of season 2. Oh God, yeah, I was hooked then. I loved the rest of season 2. I sound like a right fanboy when I'm saying this, but it really did remind me of how when I used to watch, like the first time I watched the Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica, when I first watched like Deep Space Nine and to some degree Star Trek Exploration and things like that. It took me back to that place in my life where I was really loving science fiction. So I cannot say enough good things about it, and time has got in the way of me reviewing season 5, which is airing now. But I'm up to date with it as of today. 5 episodes of it have been shown on Amazon, and it's fantastic. It really is. What they've done, spoiler alert for those people who haven't watched it, so cover your ears up for a minute or two. Basically the Belters have just formed their own sort of war army against Earth and Mars, and they took these asteroids, these rocks, and just used them as weapons and just hurled them at Mars and Earth, crashing down, causing tsunamis and tidal waves and everything. And it's just incredible, absolutely incredible what they've done with it. It's a fantastic show. It really is. Again, characterization, I really look forward to watching it, and it's rare that I say anything about anything that's on television anymore. I don't, like I say, I'll be saying, no, he's not telling the truth when he says he doesn't watch television. But believe me, honestly, I really don't watch television. I don't have a means to watch. I don't even have an aerial connected to my television because I don't watch broadcast television anymore. I don't, if I want to watch something, it's usually something I've got in physical media. That's it. I occasionally anytime I'm watching stuff, it's usually on YouTube or BitChute or something like that. That's it. I mean, I'm not interested for the mainstream television anymore as it's made. But yeah, if you haven't watched it, and I want to, say thank you to Gary and Doomcock, and I think a few other people have mentioned it as well, because it was because of them that I thought, I'm going to give this a try, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed watching it. It's really good, thoughtful, clever science fiction done the right way, the way a lot of other shows should be done. And yeah, I think that's it really. I can't think of anything else that, like I say, I don't watch a lot, so it's yeah. Which actually, talking about how things are being done good and how things are being done badly, is a good segue into our next little topic that we're going to talk about, which is Doctor Who. I really didn't want to cover it here, but I thought we'd better mention it. Mention it. We did plan to do a review of Resolution of the Daleks, but it was a horrendous experience. For me, it's difficult because, like I say, I don't have access to it. I mean, I watched Doctor Who with my mom, who does watch it, believe it or not, for her age and whatnot. But she loved it when it was years back. But she's kept following what's been going on to see how much of a mess it's been turned into, which is good. But she does watch the BBC, therefore she pays for her TV license. But I don't need it because I don't watch it. I remove BBC iPlayer from the app from any device I have because, quite frankly, I would not use the BBC television license to wipe my arse after a bout of D&V, after I'd had the trots. I wouldn't even use it. I wouldn't. I am all for defund the BBC, absolutely. Yeah. Especially, I will just say it very quickly now, especially after what they've done in 2020. They're just full of shit. They really are. They've proven themselves to be a propaganda, psychological warfare, culture war, social engineering machine that they either lie or they just completely flub and muddle the truth to the point where it's completely... Anybody who's still watching it, get your head sorted out. Get it gone, and start living in the real world, because it's like mean world syndrome that they're broadcasting all the time. It's no wonder people are frightened to death. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, but Doctor Who is another good reason for why I wouldn't even stain my arse with a BBC TV license, because I'm not going to do it. The 2 videos that you want to watch is our Christmas special that we did, our Mystery Christmas time, where I rant about Doctor Who there, and also the final episode we did of season 12, was it? The Timeless Children?
Yeah, that one.
Where we go on about it there as well. I'm not going to regurgitate it here. What they've done is an absolute travesty. It's deader than dead. And when we reviewed... when we watched Revolution of the Daleks, whatever it's called, I don't even,
that one.
Or Dalek, as she called it.
The Daleks.
The Dalek.
The Daleks.
I mean, in fairness, I will say it was nice to see Captain Jack back, but they did make a point of saying that he was... I can't even remember the line now. Yaz said that he was overcompensating for something.
They said he was... It's just like, are you insecure? Because you really need
like that.
praise a lot. That accent was...
Yeah,
awful.
so,
But...
I mean, that... It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but that kind of shows that my little prediction I made of how they were going to use Captain Jack to show how New Who is brilliant, anything before is shit. That they didn't do it anywhere like that, which I thought they would, but they did put that dig in there, didn't they? So they did undermine Captain Jack's character. Captain Jack was largely just set decoration. He really wasn't there to do it.
He just stood in the background half the time.
Yeah,
He's just like, I'm here.
Yeah,
and that was it.
And then there was that was shameful speech in the middle where the Doctor, I'm going to say not the Doctor, I'm going to call her not the Doctor, but she's not the Doctor. So not the Doctor said to Ryan, I'm frightened, all these changes, blah, blah, all this shit. And then that was clearly directed at the people who have criticised where Doctor Who's gone, we shouldn't be frightened of change. Change is good, change is necessary, blah, blah. That was clearly a dig at people like us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the SJW, identity politics, all that kind of thing was in there, but it was much more subtle this time. We had it with the racism of the Daleks and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like a race war.
It was like a race war, wasn't it? Yeah. And 2 things that I will mention here as well. Doomcock pointed this out, again, mentioning all hail Doomcock. We'll mention this. He pointed out on the Inquisition with Gary, the symbolism of the TARDIS being destroyed. The way it was all like that house in Poltergeist, all folded up on itself, is like the destruction of the TARDIS. It's symbolising the destruction of the TARDIS. And I thought, yeah, that's a fair point. And as also pointed out on a video very recently with Gary, talking about Jodie quitting, which we'll come to that in a minute, that also it's actually the murder of the Dalek, because if you look at episodes like The Doctor's Wife, we learn that the TARDIS is a living entity. It's got a consciousness. Yeah. So it's a living being. So they didn't destroy it; they actually murdered a TARDIS. Yeah. So, which is a good point that, as pointed out there, is absolutely bang on. So there are lots of things really with this, but we're just finished with it, aren't we? The pair of us, we're done.
It was like really boring for the festive special as well. Nothing happened. Literally nothing happened half the time. Like it didn't need to be as long as it did. They were just padding it. It suffered from the same thing as Star Trek Discovery, where we said we wanted to watch it because we wanted to call out the things that they were doing because they were so blatant. But they've kind of settled into becoming more subtle now with the way they do it. And the other thing is,
laughing at the ineptitude and the craziness, which I mean, you and I laughed hysterically at the time as children, didn't we? At the massive plot holes in it and all that, you know, it's just crazy. But there wasn't even that. So we couldn't point out the blatant obviousness of the political agendas, and we couldn't laugh at the ineptitude of it, the plot holes and that, because it was just boring. That's it. There's nothing more to it. It's just pointless reviewing it. And when you're done, you're done. You know when you're done. Yeah. And we both we both came to that conclusion separate of each other, didn't we? We both. Yeah. I think you probably had done a bit further back than me, but
you dragged me back to watch this, which I probably wouldn't have watched.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even want to. I mean, if I was to score it, I'd have probably given it maybe a 1.5, 2, just on the Captain Jack stuff. But that's it, really. It was nice to have the little member berries, mention of Rose and mention of Gwen and Torchwood and all that kind of thing. But other than that, no, done with it. And that's only to pander to the people that they've lost, just to try and get them back in.
Yeah.
I think Captain Jack was only brought back into it just to bring those people back. It didn't work because the ratings the overnight ratings were appalling for it. So
well, I haven't seen them, so
yeah, it was really bad. Yeah.
Not surprised.
I think it was slightly up on the Timeless Children, but it was down on last year's New Year special. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of why we're talking about Doctor Who. This story floating around a couple of days ago that Jodie Whittaker is either leaving, quitted. Some people, but basically it was started with, I think it was either the Sun or the Mirror. I think it was the Mirror.
I think so.
It's gone on to some more legitimate places. The BBC, Radio Times, I think, or BBC or whatever, have I've actually commented on it now, but they've only not denied it.
Oh, yeah.
So they haven't confirmed it; they've just not denied it.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a few people on YouTube who've got contacts, and they've been kind of getting information, and it looks as though it's actually true. And like I said earlier in this video, I contacted my associate, I should put it that way, who works in the BBC. I only have one at the moment. This person doesn't have that kind of access to that kind of information normally, because the kind of access to that information is more to do with the nuts and bolts of the way the BBC works, and not so much the more sort of like the politicized side of things, the legal stuff and all that kind of thing, editorial and whatnot. So much more to do with my alternative knowledge research. But I said, do you have the means to, and this person said, give me a few hours, I'll get back to you. And although this person cannot confirm it 100%, it does look that it's true. It does look that this story is true. Yeah. So it looks like she's not gone at the moment, but she once season this third season of hers, that's it. She's gone. But what's interesting is that there are apparently some rumours floating around that Chibnall is also gone. But that officially, and through all these other articles, are saying no, he's still there. I think there's a bit of a tug of war going on with Chibnall at the moment. I think he's not been booted. So yeah, great, like you say, thumbs up and all that. It is wonderful thing, because, and that's nothing to do with the fact that she's the first female Doctor played by, all that kind of thing. There's nothing to do with that at all. If this is a better actor would have perhaps made a better job of it. But it comes into the other problems, is that you've got, I'd say there's four things that you've got, four hurdles you've got to overcome to get Doctor Who good again and get people watching it again and to get your fans back and that. The first one would have been Jodie, getting rid of her. That would have been a good start. It is, but it's not going to change anything, because the second thing is all the people on the production. You've lost so many assets to the show that were there before the Chibnall era. Then the third thing is Chibnall himself. And then the fourth thing is the systemic problems, endemic problems actually, within the BBC, the culture within the BBC. It's basically it's like oligarchical collectivism that runs the BBC now, and it's an extreme left-wing political ideology. There are still some people in the BBC that aren't going along with this. They're part of the old guard of this idea of when the BBC was a better entity. I could argue that that's been many, many years since BBC's been anything good, but it's certainly got worse in the last couple of years. They still did put out good programming here and there. They don't even do that anymore now. That faction in the BBC is very small. It's very disorganized because they don't communicate with each other. Because the other problem in the BBC is the BBC is basically populated by two groups of people. You've got brainwashed sheep who are just walking around the BBC going meh, meh, all day long, and those are the kind of people that they believe everything that they're told. That this is the way we make TV programming now. That's it. They don't question it. They believe that's the way the world is. They've been very much indoctrinated. Of course, people should check up on things like unconscious bias training. That pretty much everybody in the BBC has to have that. And so they take you in these training courses and they tell you that any thought, they identify thoughts within your head. And if they're not, if they're politically inappropriate or culturally inappropriate, they're considered unconscious bias thoughts. And you are to remove those unconscious bias thoughts. So basically it is brainwashing. So you've got huge numbers of people now in the BBC that they believe that all these political platforms, these agendas that are in that they're perfectly justified, they're perfectly right. People are out there going to embrace them. Then you've got some people that don't go along with that. They just think it should just be about making entertainment, about broadcasting, informing people more accurately than anything would be more accurate than they do now. But those people are frightened to death to say anything. They're frightened of losing their jobs. They're frightened of being hounded out and ostracized and held up as sacrificial lambs, for want of a better way of putting it. So they stay quiet. They might talk amongst them, they're few that do think outside the box still, question things. But largely there are one or two people in the higher up parts of the BBC now that do have a bit of clout, that do have a different view on the world than the rest of the BBC, but they're so small in number now. That comes to me through my contact and other research I've done as well. So that's your big problem. That's the fourth hurdle. That's the biggest hurdle, is until you change the entire ideology, thought processes of the people at the BBC and the way it's run and the way it exists, and that Doctor Who will not change. Unless you have a swing back, those numbers start to be outnumbered. In actual fact, those people still think that they can go further with the BBC. They still think they've got a lot further to go with the BBC yet. Until every single person is going meh, meh, that's the only way they're going to be happy. So until you get rid of that fundamental ideology, it's not going to change. So Jodie being gone is not really anything for us to be cheering about. It's there's 3 or 4 other big things that have got to happen before we're ever going to get Doctor Who back the way it used to be. And that's sad. That's really sad, because it means that of all of the franchise, well, I don't really call it a franchise or not, but certainly ongoing long-term, long-running series and things like that, this is the one that's probably the deadest, because until that happens in the BBC, it's never going to change. And that I can't see that happening any time in the future with the BBC. No. I really can't.
I think it's quite sad that it's to go like this as well, because there's the title of the first female Doctor as well is quite a big thing, and I'm relatively open to change. That could have worked.
Yeah,
and
it could have done.
It's just sad that it didn't, and they messed it up so badly.
Yeah. Somebody who'd embraced it as well. That was another thing. I don't think there's any evidence that Jodie Whittaker has embraced the role, embraced the part, embraced what she's a part of as well. This cultural, iconic show that means so much to a lot of people, not just in this country, but all over the world. And so many fond memories. I said many videos back, I can't remember when it was, one of my favourite stories about when I used to be in the Who tribute band, and our audience was just gone. And we suddenly realised why it was, because it was Journey's End. Everybody was on their phones ringing up home to say, who's David Tennant regenerated into? Oh, no, actually he's just regenerated into himself again. But everybody was like, no one was interested in anything else that was going on that night. And we were like, is it something we're doing? Are we playing really shit tonight? But no. And then as soon as they found out, they were back in, obviously, watching us again, but it was just crazy. It was a weird moment. And that's reflected in the viewing figures for that episode as well. I mean, those end of season 4 episodes were way up there in terms of Doctor Who now couldn't even hope to get them kind of viewing figures. Even if we didn't live in a world of adjusted, over 7 days viewing figures or streaming, more people watching things online now than watching on broadcast television. Even if the world was like it was then, you would not have got that many people watching this incarnation of Doctor Who like that, which is it's very, very sad. It really is. So those are the obstacles that they've got to overcome. I can't see it happening.
No, it won't. It'll eventually get cancelled because it's just like they're wasting too much money on it.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't matter to them because we pay their bills.
So. Well, I don't because I don't pay the TV license. So, but a lot of people still do. And of course, it comes out of, whether they like to admit it or not, it's basically the taxpayer that pays for it in any way, shape or form anyway. So they're going to get their money from government because they are they are the mouthpiece of the government in this country. They are the propaganda machine, the psychological warfare machine. So they've got to always be funded. So whatever happens, they'll still keep getting funded. So they're still going to be there. The bastards will never be gone. The BBC will never die. It's like a fucking zombie that won't.
It is.
It's like a vampire. You stab it in the heart and it just bloody, Oh, dear me. But anyway. So unless you wanted to say anything else about Doctor Who, shall we finish up on our Christmas things?
Yeah, I love the Christmas
we'll finish this podcast with the things that we got into. Do you want to go with this? Start with this one?
Yeah, I've got my nice little pile down here.
I mean, you're probably going to completely lose me with some of the stuff you've got. I was very impressed with the one thing you got. Yeah.
So I got a couple of games. This one's really good.
Okay.
This one I haven't really played because I've been playing that one. This infamous game, Cyberpunk.
Oh yes, yeah. I am aware. I'm not a game person, so I don't play games, but computer games. But I am aware of it. Yeah.
Got those lovely 4. It's not as I'm not having that many problems except it crashing after I drive for like 15 minutes to get somewhere, and then it just crashes and I have to do it again.
Right.
But the next one is something you are a little bit more familiar with, and it is this. The full Next Generation box set.
The Blu-ray box set, Next Generation.
Yeah. So I haven't watched any yet, but
I
have them all.
You are
now,
going to.
So.
You are going to, yeah.
And the last one that I grabbed, I have had other stuff, but these are my highlight ones. This came from a friend that I have online, and it came completely out of nowhere. And it's
I think I know. Yeah.
Evangelion production artwork collection, and it has literally everything in it from the entire show, and wow, I literally opened it on the best page as well, but it has artwork like that in it, and it's just amazing. But that literally I received that out of nowhere.
That was a very, very thoughtful gift. Wasn't it? Yeah. Some of the artwork in there is incredible. It really is. Yeah.
I literally sat there for hours looking through it, and it's just amazing. Yeah. And it's only £24 as well.
Bloody hell.
It's so worth the money.
That's good. Excellent.
But they're my highlights I've selected. I did have other stuff like a comfy new chair as well. But yeah.
Yeah, there's only. I had lots of little things, but the 2 main highlights were my one. I'm going to have to reach for because I thought I'd got it with me and I haven't. Just bear with me. So the one is Farscape. It's not got the Peacekeeper Wars in it. Farscape on Blu-ray. I have been rewatching it again, and because I'm already on season 4. There's only 4 seasons as well, and I absolutely loved it. I loved rewatching it again. It's been a long time since I watched that. You talk about fantastic overarching story as well as some fantastic. I use that word a lot, fantastic, but they are fantastic individual episodes and brilliant comedy in it. So really, I laughed hilariously out loud at one point. An episode in season 4 where Granny Naranti was doing her naked striptease dance to these 2 soldiers. She drugged them and they were hallucinating. And they could see her like as this gorgeous woman, and she's like this old. She's going, I am the flower, you are the seed. She's I am the woman, you are the man. She's going, you are the gun, I am the target. She's going, oh, it's just hilarious. But yeah, I just loved it. I loved the characters. It was great watching them again. John Crichton kicks, as the episode says, and by God he does, yeah. And Aaron's son and Dargo and Chiana. I've really enjoyed watching it. So the other one is this little classic, Terry Nations, Blake 7, all 4 seasons. Again, it's one I haven't watched for a long time. Very, very prescient. Very prescient. I mean, it's good rip-roaring in the old style of Doctor Who. I can't remember because I jotted it down actually for some notes I was writing for my book. Let me see if I can find it. So I go, yeah. I'm quite a ways into it now. But again, it's like when I was saying about watching years and years. The 3rd episode had Brian Blessed. Everybody will remember him. Gordon's alive! Playing this character called Vargas. And he rules over the planet Cygnus Alpha. And there's this line in it, like the prisoners get dumped there and they get this disease, and like he can only provide the cure for it. And then he's like the only one who's got the drug for it. And then at the episode, and I wrote the line down because I thought I'll use that for my research. He says, shall I do my Brian Blessed impression? Because there is no drug. The disease is a mild poison that clears itself. But for centuries, the followers have believed in the disease, believed in the cure, just as you believed, to Blake. And Blake says, so those before you, they built you and those before you, you built your power on fear and ruled them with it, and there was no disease. And he goes, that's right. And I thought, okay, all right, okay. But Brian Blake, I mean, there's loads of great old thesps in it from the old days. Many of them turned up on the earlier Doctor Who as well. But I really proper thoughtful science fiction. I've really thoroughly enjoyed watching it. Given me lots to write about as well, actually. So because it's really quite a profound show. When science fiction was good, when it was thought-provoking, and it did write about things that, you know, if you think about. But cheesy special effects, I'm afraid. But then that was the BBC back in the day. But yeah. It's all good. So anybody who's not watched Blake 7 before, why have you not? Go out and watch it. Same with Farscape as well.
Brilliant. I haven't watched either of them.
But they're worth a couple of days of your time. They really are. They're really worth watching. So those are my 2 main ones, really. Nothing else to speak of, really, in terms of yeah. So that's that then.
Yeah.
Okay then. So I think what we'll do then, unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about, we'll finish up this podcast today. I don't know what kind of running time we're going to be at with these things. I'm sure they'll vary. But you would just say thank you so much for joining us. We've really enjoyed having a natter about different things. And
we hope to do many more.
Yes, yeah, hope so. Yeah. But for now, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing if you haven't already, please. We really, truly appreciate it. Like, share it about as well. It really, really helps. So Dan and I will see you again very, very soon. Take care for now.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.